to Bloody Good Horror, covering the best and worst of the horror genre since Halloween 2007. Listener discretion is advised.
Hello, everybody, and welcome to another saucy episode of Bloody Good Horror. My name's Eric, and I'll be your host for this evening, where we will be discussing Cam. It's the biopic of that guy from Modern Family, Joe. Took a weird turn at some point.
Dial S for sassy.
Joining me tonight, first up, coming to us from Hotlanta, Georgia, please welcome the High Priestess of Books at Bloody Good Horror, Lady Cece. You're muted, bro.
You're muted.
You're fired.
Hi, everybody. This is Cece. I like books. I like to do stuff.
I got a new mouse and I can't, like, it won't click.
Well, I'll be, y'all.
You might need another new mouse. How'd it go, y'all? I like cicadas.
That was a really good impression. I'm so impressed.
I was trying to come up with some kind of, like, southern folksy thing to say there, but I just didn't have it.
Joe got you. Don't worry.
Yeah, thanks, Joe.
Was on top of it
Next
before
up
you.
on the show, speaking of Joe, he comes from Chicago. He drinks beer. Joe, welcome to the show tonight.
Chi-Town, stand up.
You and I have some stuff to talk about, but we'll get to that in a moment. Next up on the show, coming to us from New York City, Manhattan. He's the business manager at bloodygoodhorror.com, and he gets out of work at 5 o'clock because if you needed any more proof that he was the 1%, please welcome John Schnars to the show.
Eric, I'm always working. That's the way I think about it.
Sure, yeah. Last up on the show tonight, he vapes. He does cinema fromage. He's wearing a sick Bloody Good Horror t-shirt. Please welcome Casey to the show.
Eric, I'm gonna blow your mind. I get off work at 4:30.
Oh, yeah, but you work hard. I know you work hard.
Meanwhile, what am I doing over here? I don't even want to. I'm not getting into this with you right now.
That's fine. We're ostensibly here tonight to talk about this Netflix movie called Cam, which there's a lot to talk about. The least of which is the fact that I learned that Netflix serves you algorithmically chosen screenshots to promote movies to you, because I was logged in under my wife's thing and I'm like, this can't be this Cam movie. It's just like, it looks like a picture of just like some teen kid with like headphones on. I'm like, what the fuck?
It was the brother from the movie.
So then these guys started making fun of me because I texted them a picture and I logged in under mine and it was a picture of the girl. And I'm like, I in my brain, John, I know that I'm being listened and followed all the time, but for some reason that more than anything that's ever happened to me online creeped me out. That they're like, you know what it is? It's like Ex Machina.
It's like an AI running up.
Yeah.
I mean, hold on. Let's be clear. This is like one of the least offensive uses of AI in the modern universe, I'd say. Like,
Disagree.
well,
Show me the movie poster.
It doesn't take like they're not doing anything special. They're literally just like tracking your usage of Netflix.
Show me the movie poster. That's all I want to see.
They just changed the image that you see based on other stuff you watch?
Yeah.
I'm going to assume
What
it's
is
that.
the point of that?
Because it makes you think that, like, it's not, like they take a screenshot from something that they would think you would be into.
Like, no,
So,
legit, this screenshot that they took a picture of, like, if on my wife's profile, if I'm her, it looks like a ABC Family movie or something, and I'm just like,
no, exactly.
I don't like it.
So the reason I knew about this, because I like made the joke about it, it became like a thing, and maybe it's a bigger thing than I even know, because there was black users who were essentially like being served like the only black character in a movie as the like still from like a movie that had like no, it had like the black character was in the movie for like 5 minutes, and they were like, wait a second, this is a little weird. And so essentially it became sort of like a thing on the internet. And so Eric, like it's actually like really funny because Laura's that like screen cap was like so far afield from what the movie is about. Like when you said it through, it was like actually
100%.
hilarious. It would have been funnier if
that
it was
kid
like
is that kid
like
is
an
at
Asian woman picture or something.
that
Man,
kid-
I would have literally died.
that kid is at best a side character.
Yo, he's in the movie
Yeah.
for 8 minutes.
Yeah.
He plays
I
an
don't know.
important role.
I think it would have been been better if the Netflix would have algorithmically placed the 17-year-old boy on Eric's account.
It was just a very weird, like, behind the curtain moment that made me very uncomfortable, Schnorrs. Like, I don't know why. It's very weird.
Yeah.
You know what?
I'm with you. I don't care for that. I don't like it.
Because the weird thing is, it's got a cool movie poster.
Yeah, it has a great movie poster.
Totally agree.
I mean, maybe they're thinking, like, I mean, with my wife, it's like, we know you will never watch this movie, but maybe we'll show you this picture and you will.
Here's a teenage boy, just in case.
Yeah, I don't know. It was weird.
like it.
I totally agree.
You know what's even weirder, though, John? The other big controversy this week, what I'll refer to from here henceforth as Flushgate 2018.
Oh, God. I don't even want to get into
We almost
this.
broke
This
up
is-
Joe's marriage this week.
It's still touch and go over at the.
We are. This has torn Slack apart,
Yeah, no, I agree.
and it all started.
has.
It all started, John.
Listen, Kyle and I got into a huge argument about it too. So I'm with Joe. Like it was. I tried to ask Kyle in a non biased way, and it didn't work.
No,
Did not
because
work in my favor.
because there is no scenario. First of all, we got to get to what we're talking about. But Cece, there's no scenario, and I've learned this, and I could have told you this, but wherein you present that situation to somebody who's never heard of it, and they react not completely viscerally with disgust. No way possible.
I don't know.
So, sorry, I lost you guys for a second. So I'm sitting there eating breakfast Saturday morning, and my wife goes to me. I couldn't tell you how we got on it, but she's like, you know how, like, did any of your friends ever, like, flush their cereal down the toilet? And I dropped my fork and my jaw just, like, hit the ground, and she just meant to say, like, casually, like we were just having, like, a casual conversation. I lost my mind. I had so many questions, and as best as she could communicate to me, it's like the idea is that for some reason you don't want to put the milk down your sink, and then like what a normal person would do. You skim your milk, you dump the cereal in the garbage, whatever. That some families, it's like ingrained in them. You dump it in the toilet because it gets taken away, and they never have to worry about it, I guess, unless you have a septic tank, in which case I don't know what the hell you're doing there. But so I'm like, okay, as with anything on Slack, we should mention too that Slack has been like off the hook lately. Slack has been blowing up. Like we had a huge influx of new users within like the last 2 weeks, and they are very, John, let's say, enthusiastic.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
So my immediate instinct is I tweeted about it, and then I took a screen capture of the tweet and I put in the food channel, and I'm like, guys, I need a ruling on this. What the hell, has anyone ever heard of this? And Joe, what you couldn't have possibly known, Joe, is that when an argument like this bubbles up, my first thought is, I really hope Joe is on my side. and here's why, Joe, because you more than anyone else can shame someone to the point of shutting them down at a record pace. Like if somebody says something in the show that you find like offensive to you, you will literally destroy them in like 20 seconds. So I was just like, I need Joe on my side on this, and I'm sitting there watching, and in Slack on your app you can like see people typing. I'm like, oh, good Lord, good God, Joe's typing finally. So then I see, and it comes through and it just says, I wish I could remember, but the first reply was like, yeah, like what else would you do with cereal? You dump it down the toilet. And I was like, and I wrote back, I was like, Joe, you're kidding, right? And you're just like, no, what? I kid you not, that one exchange has kicked off literally 4 straight days of debate on this topic. With literally, there's like, I would say a small but vocal Slack contingent that including Cece from her childhood apparently, claiming that they did this. And then this other contingent that just comes in and is like, what the fuck? What? Like
I think there's really only 3. I think it's me, CC, and I forget his name, but the fellow who lives in Korea now.
Jared. Listen, I love Jared, but your boy needs an intervention because as the week, this is the funny thing, is the week has gone on. So Joe, you can talk about your end of this argument, what happened when you set this off, but like I get the sense that Joe has started to retreat from his position a little bit. Like not that he's not going to do it, but he I feel like he read the room a little bit. Jared is he's just taking that to the bank, man. He's not giving that one up.
Yeah, I don't know where else to go with this at this point. Like, so here's what happened in my house. You sent this And I had never thought that anyone would find this strange that that's what you do. Like, I don't know, you dump liquid things down the toilet, and it's,
Yeah.
I don't know why, but like cereal was the only thing that was allowed. Like, we didn't dump anything else. Like, for some reason, cereal was
Joe,
like,
you
perfectly
no,
acceptable.
Joe,
Are
you
you
do-
just dumping the milk?
No,
No,
the-
No,
it's
and it's like the soggy cereal.
yeah, there's
Joe-
You
nothing
eat
left.
that?
Ew, no, soggy cereal?
that's the best
Y'all
part.
are weird. You fill up your bowl.
Yeah, the
you,
cereal isn't good until
eat
it's
it.
soggy.
You eat it
Yeah.
like halfway
Okay,
down, and then
that's
you
a
drink it
problem.
up.
The fact that
Oh, yes, me
you're
eating
like
yeah.
an 80-year-old man and you have to have soggy cereal.
Yes,
There you
CC,
go.
me eating soggy cereal is a problem, and not you bringing food into your bathroom every day.
I'm not on the toilet while I'm dumping it
Doesn't
into
matter.
the
It does
toilet.
not. You're adjacent. You're. Anyway, Joe, finish your.
So we start having this like discussion on Slack, and then I go upstairs at one point, and like I say it so matter of factly to Leslie because
Yes.
we've lived together for 17 years, and I just assume she has seen me do this at some point. So I'm like, I don't know, like Eric and a bunch of people think it's weird that you dump cereal down the toilet. She's like, wait, what? Like, and just like sparked this entire thing that she had no idea that this has been going on behind her back for close to 20 years.
And
And
that
like her reaction was like the same as yours, Eric. Like we would stop talking about it, and then like 45 minutes later, she'd be like, "But why would you do that?" Like,
Joe, I can't stop thinking about it, and that's part of the thing for me is like, I can't wrap my brain around the thought process that leads you from A to B.
well, I mean, the skimming argument is ridiculous. Like, why would I waste time skimming when I could just go?
It takes
into
2
the bathroom and
seconds.
dump-
You have to walk to a separate room. That's what's so bizarre. to
A
me.
separate
How
room,
large
a
is
separate
your house
room,
that, like,
a separate
literally-
room that is specifically made for shitting.
Yeah.
I can't believe nobody just drinks all the milk and be done with it.
That's actually a fair
Yes.
point. To Eric's
Finish
point,
the milk.
I don't bring any of my silverware or cutlery
no.
into the bathroom ever.
And
It's
if I
just like,
did,
that's
and
like
if
a
I
rule in
if
our
I
house,
did, and it
guess.
touched that area, it would get immediately thrown out.
I don't even take beer in there.
I've
You
done
don't
that.
ever have
I'm
a
like,
beer shower?
Maybe in
I
college.
definitely-
But here, Joe, like your end of this is such a great microcosm of this whole debate. Like it keeps. So we have a food channel on Slack. If you're a patron, get on Slack. This is what you're missing. But like it's normally just food chat, but it has intermittently for the last 72 hours. It keeps coming back to this.
It keeps popping back
I
up.
can't. But like your wife, like you're saying, your wife kept bringing it up every 45 minutes. I can't. Finally today, I started getting to be able to think about other things, and then Jared kept bringing it up. But like your situation is such a great microcosm because what I have found is there is a non-zero number of people that have done this. We've at least established that. I feel like the
Yeah.
non-flushers outweigh them, but like the percentage is not quite as high as I would
Yeah,
prefer.
it wasn't immediately everyone being like, "This is the craziest thing I've ever heard."
But there is only two sides to this debate. There is, I've been doing this my whole life and have never even considered that it might be weird. And then there's this other group that's like, I am 40 years old and I've never even heard of this. What the hell? Like just pure shock. And I love that like you could have lived with your wife for that long and she didn't know and you just thought it was normal. That is what is so fascinating about this whole thing to me, Joe. Is like we need to talk to each other more. We need to figure
Well,
out what's
it's
going
a
on.
bit. Like she's definitely like been in the kitchen when I've gone and done this. Like
She just thought you were
I-
walking out with a bowl.
she's just like not paying attention, and then all of a sudden I come back with an empty bowl.
You don't even pay attention to what I do.
Wow, Joe, you're
around
such a
here.
good cereal eater. You leave that room and it's always gone in seconds.
Well, I mean, I hardly eat cereal anymore, also. So I mean, it's when I was a kid, it was like every day because you always have like that leftover milk, and I'm like, I'm not fucking. with
I
that.
will say, Joe, you did at one point say that some type of soups can also go there.
Oh yeah, there's definitely been times where like we've had leftover soup in the fridge, and I'm like, this is no good anymore. It's going down the toilet. Like I would never flush anything like thicker than like a chicken noodle soup, but you know
Do you have a garbage disposal?
we do. But my argument
No.
is like that thing. If I muck that up, there is no way I'm gonna be able to fix
But
that.
my
You
argument,
have a
but
garbage disposal.
yeah.
Casey, I never had a garbage disposal growing up, and this was never an issue. You have the strainer on the top. If food gets in there,
I
you
agree
throw it
with
out.
You, Eric, and now my mind is even more blown because a garbage disposal is in the mix. It
Look.
makes no sense.
Look, God, we own our house. I have to repair everything that gets broken. There's no way I'm fucking with this thing.
Don't you use this garbage disposal? I might have to fix it one day.
It's only for special occasions.
Yes.
And orange rinds because I like the way it smells.
See, orange rinds are probably bad for it.
No, they're great.
They're definitely tougher than soup.
Yeah, right. Thank you.
Jesus.
Yes.
It's soggy cereal.
We are so off the rails. We gotta get.
So anyway, we actually have like a bunch of important stuff to talk about, but like that is the topic that has engulfed the BGH community in the last 4 days, and it had to be discussed. Anyway,
That's
Joe.
funny because I don't follow the food channel, and I saw we had a new user today, Andy from Australia, and he showed up in random nonsense, and there were people asking him which way his cereal rotates around the toilet bowl, and I didn't know what was going on.
Yeah, he didn't either. And there's no way he's ever going to be able to go back and figure all that out. So anyway, Joe, I apologize for almost breaking up your marriage. I meant that to be much more innocuous than it turned out to be.
I mean, it was bound to happen at some point.
It was really the straw that broke the camel's back.
My wife.
If it wasn't this, it'd be something else.
My wife just randomly texted me a picture of my daughter's cereal bowl today, and it just said, what should I do with this? ...
Wait, here's, not to keep this going, but here's the thing I find insane, though. Today, when we were talking on the food channel, this came up again. And then randomly, just like somewhat to troll you guys, we're cleaning because we have company coming over at the end of the week. And I had to clean our toilet. And I did it with my bare hands. And I mentioned that in the Slack channel. And everyone's like, oh, yeah, that's perfectly fine. You just wash your hands after. But for some reason, me bringing a bowl and dumping cereal.
You know what, Joe? It's not
touching the toilet water.
It's not really about the germs. It's more about the principle. It's about the concept of what you're doing than it is the actual hygiene.
This is like
Because you're doing a thing that nobody ever intended to happen in that room. Right? Like that's...
You don't know that.
Already.
This is the guy that used to record in the bathroom.
It's true.
It's not called the cereal room. Right?
He used to record in the bathroom. This shouldn't be.
It's not called the food flush place.
No, well, it's not called the shit room either. It's called the bathroom.
Well,
I actually call it the shit.
Shitter's fault.
Standards, am I supposed to be bathing in my toilet?
Okay. This is why. This is where this argument keeps going around. We can't keep having it. It's going to tear us apart, guys.
This should have been episode 500, just an hour and a half conversation about.
Oh boy.
Bathroom habits.
Really quickly, Joe, a couple things. So, we finally got the 10-year T-shirt up for sale.
Yep, yeah, that's up on the site now, or up on our TeePublic site. I don't know when this will go out, but if you guys are listening to it live, it's on sale right now, like discounted for I think like $2 or $3 for the next couple days. And then if this goes up before Friday, we're also having a Black Friday sale. So look for that stuff on the site. You can get all that through bloodygoodhorror.com though. But yeah, the 10-year anniversary shirt, which we've been going back and forth on for over a year now, is now finally up for sale for everybody.
It's cool, and it's got that cool like Herbert West zombie kind of mashup thing. So
yeah, yep.
It's pretty sweet. Spooktacular.
Spooktacular, we locked in a movie. There was it was actually a lot closer than I thought it was going to be, but we're going to be doing My Soul to Take on November 30th, which is a week from this Friday. Starting, I think we'll probably sign on at around 7:30 Eastern Standard Time, and then start actually watching the movie at 8. So yeah, we're super excited to be doing one of those again.
Very nice. That's exciting. If you don't know, Spooktacular is basically a live watch along with BGH. So you'd have to get a rental of the movie, Amazon, YouTube, whatever. And I think probably go live around 8. Did we decide on when we're going to go live?
Yeah, I would push for like 8:15 on my end, Eastern Standard Time, that is. But yeah, otherwise, something in that neck of the woods.
Word. Yeah, so get ready for that. Keep an eye on social media for more information as we get closer. Episode 500 coming up next week, question mark? It's
Eric.
It's a little bit up in the air. I gotta get all the cereal out of my toilet first, and then we'll figure it out. But no, I don't know. I'm working on it. It'll be up soon. We'll see what we can do. Depends on how this weekend goes. Look forward to that. I'm very excited. I'm really just excited to like have people hear it because it's just been me and I can't really share stuff with people. So there you go. John, iTunes and Spotify, really quick. Let's talk about this stuff.
Spotify, you can now hear these dulcet tones via your Spotify application. Um, no, I mean it's Spotify's had podcasts for a while. It's something they made a push on. For a long time, it was not something that anyone could get into, and we had been checking it out. And yeah, we're finally live. We're live as of this week.
It's cool, and
Um,
I've been listening. It's a good player. So if you happen to would like to listen to podcasts there, you can do that.
Yeah, I mean, the ask honestly is if you use Spotify, we'd love for anyone to follow us there. It'll help with discovery. So
Yeah, I would say even if you
shout for
don't
that.
want to listen to the show on Spotify, if you're a fan, please look us up and follow us. Yeah, for exactly what John's saying, it'll help us get out to a larger audience.
Yeah, and to Eric's to the other point on iTunes. I mean, we haven't talked about it in a long time, but wanted to just do a quick shout out for iTunes reviews. We have a lot of iTunes reviews. We have a lot of very nice iTunes reviews. We have some nasty iTunes reviews. That's totally fine. We actually enjoy all of our iTunes reviews. But for anyone who hasn't reviewed us on iTunes, it's another way that whether you're a patron, whether you're just a casual listener, whether you found us last week or you've been listening forever, it's a great way to support the show. And because iTunes, it really actually matters a lot. You know, how many reviews you have, and frankly, how many reviews you get sort of at any given time period can kind of kick you up and down the charts pretty dramatically. And we know, from folks we've been interacting with, from fans we've met over the years, a lot of folks just find us by searching for podcasts on iTunes. So it's a great way to support the show, get the name out there. You can also just tell a friend or family member over Thanksgiving. That's something else we appreciate.
Help share BGH with someone you love.
Please do this holiday season.
We do get like a funny number of people who are like, yeah, like I learned about it from my coworker or my friend or something like that.
It's almost never a family member. It's always like, yeah, that weird coworker that was also into horror with me. So
I hope they don't say it in that voice.
Yeah, that wasn't great.
That's how I talk about horror movies at work.
Hey, you like spooky movies?
So yeah, definitely iTunes reviews. Follow us on Spotify. Anything you guys can do to help get us out to a wider audience is greatly appreciated. Really quick, we have a dispatch from Andy, our managing editor at BloodyGoodHorror.com. We have a new Screams Off Screen up. That is a thing I believe Colin is doing. It's on Poltergeist. And it's basically like a sort of all the behind-the-scenes stuff that goes on behind these movies. So those are really cool. And right now, Luke is out checking out stuff at the Buried Alive Film Festival in Atlanta, turning in reviews of movies like Framed and The God in My Ear or Year.
Wait, Luke is in Atlanta?
I don't know. That's what this says here. There you go.
Cool. It's not like I live there or anything.
Don't take it personally, CC.
I didn't know about any of these things until this email from Andy, so you should take it up with Andy. info@bloodygoodhorror.com. Andy@bloodygoodhorror.com. In fact, CC, that's where you can hit him up. Joe.
Yes, sir.
Have you ever dumped a beer down your toilet?
I'm sure.
Yeah. I can't imagine you would not just finish your beer though.
I mean, there's definitely been beers that I've poured down the sink.
The sink though. That's interesting you say the sink.
Well, if I'm in the kitchen, I'm right next to the sink. There's no chunks in there to muck up my garbage disposal.
Hopefully not.
Yeah. Hey Joe, what are we drinking tonight?
Beer guts.
Cam, a delightful little tale about a cam gal who finds that a exact duplicate, copy, twin, maybe, has kind of taken over her feed, and hilarity ensues. So in honor of that fun, I picked a beer from the folks over at Ballast Point Brewing. They started in San Diego, California. They've kind of expanded everywhere. But this beer is their Dead Ringer. This is a Marzen-style beer, which, if you're familiar with that fine Oktoberfest, it's the traditional style of beer that's brewed for that festival. A lot sort of on the maltier side. A lot easy to drink, though, not very heavy. This one comes in at 6% alcohol, so a little bit higher than usual, but still very kind of easy to get down. And especially like in the fall months, that sort of maltiness I really like a biscuity, if you will. I really like these guys at Ballast Point. They got bought out a while back, which kind of bums me out, but they still put out really good beers. You've probably seen their Sculpin at a number of places. It's one of the more popular, and I think I may have done it for the show at some point. But this one is it's seasonal. I think it's still on the shelves now, so you can probably get it. But one of their better ones. I really do enjoy it. Like a lot of, like I said, like caramel and toasted malt and that sort of thing, which is great as like the temperatures drop. Ballastpoint.com is their website, and definitely give it a go.
Very nice. Thank you for that, Joe. That is the beer recommendation, something you get here every week from Hair Joe.
Mhm.
You know what, Joe? The semi-related, the weed shops finally opened here in Massachusetts today.
Oh man!
All 2 of them that they've licensed so far, and they literally they set up tents outside because there were just people just like looped around.
Going everywhere. Yeah, our governor, he just won. He says he's gonna legalize it here in Illinois. So
Nice. So maybe I'll start doing bud reviews in the show, Joe.
yeah. Ooh.
This is my webcam straight.
This one tastes like
my
weed.
Tent. I'm bringing my tent to your.
It's got a skunky smell to it.
backyard.
Yeah, sort of a dry mouthfeel. There you go. And then I zone out like that. That's part of the whole bit.
Just stare off into space.
That's just residual THC from my teenage years. All right, guys, let's take a quick break and discuss Cam.
This is it, Jennifer. Your big break in TV. What the prime time, bitch? Main feature.
And we're back. John Schnorrs.
Yes, Eric.
You have some kind of sexy cam operation going over there that we don't know about?
Well, in my younger years.
Is that what all this 5 o'clock stubble's about?
Mhm. It's what the fans demand, Eric.
Yeah.
It's
Yeah.
what the fans.
I'm just saying it might push our Patreon numbers up a little bit.
Yeah.
Just saying.
Could.
John
Listen, if
Schnorrs.
patrons want to kick me some cash. Do all kinds of
We'll
funny.
pretty much do
facial hair
whatever.
things.
Yeah. Please bring us the word of the day.
Eric, today's word: webcam.
Ooh.
Okay.
Yeah, it's a video camera that inputs to a computer connected to the internet.
Oh,
so that
it
its
is?
Image.
Tell me
Yes.
more.
So that its images can be viewed by internet users. I think we all knew what a webcam was. Like, let's not get fresh here. The thing I was kind of most interested in.
I will get
was-
fresh whenever I want to.
So are you? I'm actually curious. Who wants to guess what the date of the first webcam? The
Oh.
first sort of like, according to, I'm going with the Wikipedia. I did not do that much research, but
I'm gonna-
1988.
I'm going to guess 1991.
it was 1991.
Boom.
Ooh.
Yeah. Cambridge University pointed a camera
Ah.
at a coffee pot and broadcast an image from the camera. It wasn't like a continuous stream. It was like a photo that got
Yeah,
taken of
yeah.
the coffee pot every certain amount of time, and that ran for 10 years till 2001. So the first that was the first webcam. I don't even think the word actually existed at that point, but the first commercial webcam, so like sort of consumer available to the public, 1994. Jenny Cam. Any of
Ooh.
ya? Yeah, Jenny Cam was the first cam girl.
I'm
At least, again,
I'm
according to
still
what-
blown away these days by webcam technology because those 90s ones were just trash fires.
Not great.
Just the
Yeah.
worst.
I mean, so Jenny Cam was 1996.
Wild. So Jenny Cam, this was a lady cammer like this lady in this movie.
She was like a college student, and she basically just like turned a cam on in her dorm room and just like broadcast nonstop. I like remember reading about it. I wasn't like old. I mean, I was
Yeah.
14, 15. No, like it was like a thing. And I studied like new media and shit like that in college.
Ooh.
So it was like,
Wait,
John, so
did you go
so-
to school for multimedia also?
Yeah, John. So did Joe. John, that's not that big a deal.
yeah. No, I understand.
You're not the only one.
But yeah, so webcams, they've been around, Eric. They've been around.
It's amazing.
Mm-hmm.
I don't think I ever owned one until we launched our Patreon and started doing this live stream.
No.
Well, no, because we did Spooktaculars
yeah.
before that. My MacBook had one built in, I guess, but Maybe.
I think I
Mhm.
had one in college. I don't know that I ever used it for anything
Yeah.
but
Yeah, you did.
other
you
than,
dirty
other
dog.
John Schnars,
Jesus Christ.
tell us about Cam.
Cam.
Capital letters, we should point out.
Is it so? I was unclear on if it was capital letters
I think
or
so.
not. Um, but yeah, I mean, Cam. So as Eric mentioned, Cam. This was a direct to Netflix. It sort of made the rounds via some of the festivals and things like that. It got picked up really quickly though by Netflix. It's directed by a guy named Daniel Goldhaber. First directorial debut. Screenwriter Issa Mazzy. Issa Mazzy. And yeah, I mean, it is a movie about Joe really kind of gave as much of a synopsis as you might need, but it's about a cam girl who her screen name is Lola, her real name is Alice, and she's sort of up and coming on the platform that she uses in that they have rankings. She's very much sort of like meticulously following her rankings, and she's working it. I mean, it's like a real job. And a lot of what the movie really excels in is in kind of creating this world and showing this world of what it means to be a cam girl, or cam person. I don't know. It's not just girls, probably.
Cam woman, John.
Cam artist.
Oh, yeah,
but
I'll go with that.
But yeah, I mean, so she's like, she is just grinding, and there's like a level of, there's some like weird shit that goes on. Like one of her things that we see pretty early on is she commits suicide on screen, but it's sort of like a fake suicide, but it's actually really well staged.
The movie's 5 minutes.
Yeah. Well, it really was one of those things where I was like, is there going to be like a flashback now, or what's, but she does this pretty elaborate slitting her own throat thing, and it drives like a ton of interest in her channel, and so she's like really kind of carving out this niche for herself, and in doing that she's growing on this platform, and just as she's really starting to kind of like crack into I think the top 50 essentially, she basically goes on one day, tries to log in, and the website basically acts as if, well, that she certainly doesn't control her profile anymore. And moreover, what happens is, even as she's trying to log in, she then goes to her channel and someone is actually live broadcasting. And what's, further from that, it's someone who looks exactly like her. And so the rest of the film is really about her trying to unravel sort of what's going on. She spends a fair bit of time really just trying to get access back to from the company that's running this channel. But yeah, it takes her into some dark places, including interacting with a lot of the cam watchers. What do we call the consumers?
Clientele.
The
Sure.
clients.
Yeah, I'm into that. Yeah.
So yeah.
All right. Thank you for that, John. Cam, Cece,
Yes.
what'd you think?
I absolutely loved this movie. I thought it was just really, really amazingly done. I had been recommended this several times and was really looking forward to seeing it. I hadn't seen any trailers or anything, so I really didn't know what to expect in that sense. But I did know that the writer was a previous cam girl, and I think that really, really lent itself to creating this like super realistic and really intriguing craziness of like a world that you would never really think about. Like, I don't think about how intense it is for cam girls to like set up their plans and how, like all the extra work that goes into it. And I think that it's a really great unbiased look at sex work in general. So it was great on that front. And then the crazy twist it takes was very unsettling, and it made me never want to be on the internet again.
Yeah, Joe.
But here we are.
But here we are in video.
Yeah, I had not really heard about this, and I wasn't really sure what the plot was. I, like Cece, really enjoyed the sort of dynamic between the main character and the other cam girls, and like kind of seeing like behind the curtain of how that whole interaction plays out. When it got to the like, sort of the twisty part of it, I really I don't know. Like I needed a little more explained to me than probably when we talked over email like the rest of you did. So it kind of fell flat for me there. Like I was left a little bit like scratching my head. And I think I really would have been happier with just a movie straight on showing like what goes on in the life of a cam girl versus like this kind of Black Mirror-esque twist that we get like midway through.
We probably
So
wouldn't have been able to cover that other movie on this podcast, unfortunately.
John, we've covered other things but you know, I enjoyed it. I think I'm probably just not as on board with it as the rest of you guys are.
Casey.
I ended up loving this movie, and I watched it a second time today because when I watched it the first time on Friday, I was a bit under the influence, and I wanted to make sure I didn't miss anything important. And it's just as good the second time around with a couple days of age on it, which I think spells a lot. They do a really fantastic job with the writing in this movie, and some of the things they make. I mean, there's a lot of talk in this day and age about women in Hollywood and things like that, and the way they get treated and the way they get represented and everything like that. And they did a lot of interesting things in this movie that I think will be big for women going in the future, because they showed things that would normally be taken as lewd and sexual and presented it in a way that's not lewd and sexual, yet it was still there. And I think that was a pretty interesting change as far as Hollywood movies coming out.
Yeah.
Which is cool, but there's a lot of good things else going on for it as well. It's not just like a political movement or anything like that. There's a lot of really good tension. I think all the acting's pretty solid in this movie. There's a couple red herrings that had me guessing the wrong way, and I liked it.
John.
Yeah, I ended up liking this a lot more than I sort of expected. I knew nothing about this. This like hit our radar like really kind of the last couple of weeks, I would say. Yeah, I mean, you guys touched on a lot of it. I mean, I think the portrayal of essentially like sex work in a really frank and it's not even that it's not like overly like rosy. It's just like a really it's a real portrayal.
Yeah.
Yes.
There's an authenticity to it that you can tell even without knowing like who wrote it. You can tell that like there's experience here.
Yeah, they and you know, Joe and you know, you guys kind of called out like the detail that goes into it, the way that it kind of constructs this woman's life before any of the kind of like crazier shit starts to happen is really interesting. I think, you know, ultimately this is like a really solid sort of like dystopic near sci-fi, or you know, whatever you want to call the kind of like, you know, technology goes awry type of shit that, you know, Joe called out Black Mirror. I mean, the most critical thing I could say about this is that it would be like a really solid episode of Black Mirror, but I'm someone who loves Black Mirror, and like that's like in some ways high praise. So it's a film of that scope and scale, but I think it's really excellently done. And you know, as we've all kind of mentioned, like the portrayal of this kind of unique industry and the corner of the web, frankly, that we don't usually think that much about, was enough to make this like just like a really cut above, I think, in a lot of ways.
Yeah, I agree. Like, I mean, just first and foremost, just as a genre film, this thing is incredibly tense. But in a funny way, right? Like, there's not a lot of what you would think of as like traditional horror stuff happening. But what it nails is this like fear of getting your identity stolen, and that can take a lot of forms. Like, I related so much just to that basic anxiety of like, I'm trying to log into a thing, I can't log into it. Okay, and then it's shot really brilliantly, right? Because like, so much of it is taking place on screens, and that could be boring, but it's this great like kinetic kind of pacing and cutting where, okay, I go to my phone and I put in my phone number, and then it gives me my code, and then I put the code in, and it's like, fuck, I'm blocked out again. And it's just like this great choppy editing style, and just ramps up the tension, and it really just like the whole way, it's really tense.
It makes user interfaces and user experience like pretty compelling on
fascinating.
screen.
Yeah. And
well, even that moment when she's trying to log in, and then she hears her computer in the cam room, and she hears herself on on the cam while she's
It's
trying
scary,
to log
yeah.
in was super, super creepy.
Yeah. Well,
Yeah.
and what it does is like when you guys are talking about like authenticity, it's in a weird way you watch the movie and you understand the partially like even though it's dark at times like the allure of it, you know, in the sense even just in this visceral sense of the way they shoot these scenes where she's live and she's getting like tips from people and she's getting like adoration and compliments and they do a great job of showing how, you know, literally like the sounds that the tips make and like it's like this endorphin rush sort of for her, and it literally becomes like an addicting thing. It's also sustaining her. She has a lot of money. They show that early on. She kind of just has money to blow. Like she buys her, she goes to buy her brother a present at one point and just goes and sweeps every video game off the like the new shelf, you know, and she's got this nice house that she paid for with this money. And but
she rented it. Her mom told her she should buy to invest.
right.
Yeah.
But you know, the movie's like but just about duality in a lot of ways, right? So you see her loving this and being successful, but you also see all the work that she puts into it. You also see where, yes, she's getting a lot of praise and sort of quote unquote love from these viewers, but she's also in some ways being degraded by some of them or kind of being devalued. But in a weird way, like, again, the movie, like I said, it's not really putting a judgment on that relationship. It's just showing all of it, the good and the bad.
Yeah.
And the way that those things can sort of naturally lead to sort of like exploitation in some ways. But she's also shown really like, I think, being empowered by the work. The problem is that, as John said, like it becomes all consuming. Like it literally,
Well, yeah.
and that's a large part of what the movie's about is the way that, yes, like you can do something like this. And I was talking over email. It actually reminds me a lot of Twitch streamers, minus the sex part, right? But it's similar in that it's the allure and promise of doing something you sort of enjoy, being independent, being your own boss, making money. But the only way to be successful at it is to literally like grind yourself down. And it's kind of like in a lot of ways what the movie is about, in the way that the way that this breaks her down, the way that these guys break her down, even kind of while they're sort of quote unquote like lifting her up in some ways with the money and all that. There's just a lot. There's so much going on under the hood of this movie that it's exploring, and it's all really anchored by this, like Casey said, this really fantastic performance by this lead actress.
Yeah, I mean, I think that the setup of her being her own boss and getting to do something that she knows that she's very good at, and regardless of whatever that is, I think that, like you said, the arc of her being like, you know, on this super high, like she's, you know, making all these moves up into the top 20, and then by the end, you know, she's kind of having to reinvent herself. Like it's very indicative of any artist, performer, anybody who wants to freelance or be their own boss. Like it's something that everyone can relate to in that sense, and I think that's too something that really resonates as an
yeah, I mean,
member.
and to make watching this so relatable to people who don't have any experience with it is kind of like one of its most successful
for sure
things. And because again, it's like you can relate to the internet anxiety, you can relate to what you're saying about being your own boss, but yet in a lot of ways, part of I think the entertainment of this is just the fascination of getting such a view into this world that you don't normally see, because you're just watching it how it works and you're like, shit, this is crazy.
It even does a really good job though of normalizing that profession that she's in, because there's always been a stigma against sex workers and stuff like that, and they do a really good job of normalizing it because, like Cece said, anybody like working in, you know, corporate America, and like for me, say in IT, you're going to reach a point where shit happens and you feel like you need to reinvent yourself to get ahead. They've gone a long way with that. I think they kind of broke some borders here. It feels like
the darkest part of this movie in a lot of ways is that moment. So it's basically the end of the first act where it's right before she gets her personality stolen, hacked, and we should talk about it like a little bit about what the movie is actually like doing in that toward the sort of second half, but where she's been set up, or not set up, but she's being more or less attacked by another one of the cam girls who says like essentially push her down, push down Alice, push down Lola, and I'll like take my top off. And this is for like an actress who had never done that before. She ends up not doing it, but it makes Lola like super desperate, and she actually like does something that I don't know if it was like it wasn't necessarily like against her principles. She talks a little bit about how she has these like sort of like core values that she's trying to follow, but she goes and like does this like essentially like a sex show, which was something that she, had kind of shied away from, but like lots of other folks had done in this like cam world that she was, and it's a really, it's like the grimiest or like sort of like darkest part
It's very
of
like it reminded me a lot of the end of Requiem for a Dream.
yeah.
Like it had that same sort of feel to it, and it
It's
did
not.
like it felt
It doesn't go that far. But
it full on.
I know what you mean though, totally. But and what was interesting to me is like the way that sequence then immediately it's the next morning she wakes up and tries to log into her account and because that sequence when she basically does this thing that she didn't really want to do, is probably like a step further kind of like sexually speaking than she wanted to go. And it's not even that graphic, just to be clear. Like we're making it maybe sound worse than it is, but
I don't remember exactly what happened, John. Can you go into detail?
but you're gonna have to watch the movie again. But no, but then she wakes up the next morning, and because it had been a success, like she went from being like whatever 53rd, and then she climbs up into like the 40s,
Right.
and so she like kind of like feels like okay, validated in that it like achieved what she wanted. She had gotten to 50, she got knocked down. Now she's like got to do this thing to kind of like push herself back up. It kind of goes further. I mean, it's really to Cece's point about like the way that sometimes artists might have to like push boundaries or do things that are maybe outside the scope of what they had thought of as their art. But but it's the next morning she wakes up and that's when she's lost access, right? And so a big part of me for like the middle part of this film, and I was wondering sort of like how you guys experienced this when you were watching the movie. A big part of me was like unclear how much of what was happening to her was happening in her head, or was like something she was like essentially she had almost like a break, and that it was like psychological.
Yeah, it's one of those.
I didn't take that.
It's
I didn't take it that way
interesting.
at all.
It's interesting because Joe brought up the point of just kind of being a little lost towards the end, and I totally kind of feel that. It kind of feels like a movie that's a little more interested in its metaphors, and so I was kind of just taking the ride with it, but I definitely was like unclear on some of that stuff towards the end.
Yeah. And not to, I don't want to give anything away, but like to John's point, like that part where she's kind of doing the scene where she initially thought she wasn't going to, like they kind of set it up like potentially this is all in her head, and like that's where I actually thought this was going. And then when we do get what the actual twist is, like I was a little bit lost, and I think that's what kind of like I watched this with Leslie too. Like we were both just kind of like, I don't know, like is this not an ending? Or
part of the problem
is,
and I don't know really about the ending, but just like the twist, quote unquote, like kind of reveal, is it's explained in a single line that is vaguely worded, and so it comes and goes, and you're like, what?
But I mean, like we talked about in the email, like I kind of like it being that vague because it's something that, I mean, it kind of plays on your fears or just our fears in general of the internet, of the unknown, of like we're doing all of this stuff, like putting our image out there in the world. We don't know who has it. We don't know who or what or like anything about what happens once we post any sort of material whatsoever. So I really liked that, like, okay, yeah, some people might think it's more in your head and don't really worry about it being, absorbed by anything else. And then you can also take it other ways. So it was creepier for me to not know, like, or not to have it fully explained.
Yeah.
I mean, I get that. I guess to expand on it a little bit, they also are doing this sort of her identity's being stolen, while we also have this tension of one of her viewers kind of stalking her and her meeting up with one of the other viewers, like, and that's the stuff that I found like super interesting. So when they kind of switch back to like the dual identity thing, I'm kind of like, I don't really give a shit about this. Like I'm really more interested in seeing like what's going on in this, like her real life.
You were wondering what the rest of the Mexican restaurant menu looked like?
Fuck that restaurant.
That scene
call something so like a queso tower. They have
cream or something.
And then they bring it out, and it's literally like a fucking punch bowl full of the shittiest queso you've ever seen in your life.
That guacamole was like soup. It was just
well, but I feel like that was part of the whole shtick with that restaurant, though, because
I
even the kid with his like terrible Spanish, and then the dude, the like customer guy who's with her is like, oh, that's why I love this place. It's so authentic.
I love the authenticity.
The no, I mean, Eric, you sort of made the point that it's left. There's definitely some ambiguity in the specifics of what's happening, and I 100% agree, and I actually would say that it is a strength. I mean, for me, a lot of what this movie is really about, and this is going to get a little like maybe slightly nerdier than it needs to, but like so the anxiety that she's experiencing is like this sort of anxiety that's going on right now in the world around automation of and the displacement of labor, right? So like all of these people in different industries who are losing jobs to machines, and essentially like what is happening to her, whether it's in her head or not, is that someone has co-opted her account. It's someone that looks exactly like her, which she doesn't have a twin. So it's either someone who is like stealing her identity and physically like making themselves look like her, or and ultimately like where this ends up going is there's like some form of AI,
Some kind of like deep fake AI thing.
Yeah, exactly. Like, I mean, we don't even need to get into the deep fakes nonsense, but yeah, essentially yes. And like, there's an element of this movie that's really about like what happens in a universe where, even a job as seemingly irreplaceable or unautomatable as sort of cam person, sex worker, can be faked. And it we like somewhat talked about it over email, but you get into these things of like you see stories about like sex robots and like you read about the shit that they're like trying to do with VR now, and it's like
I don't read a lot about that, John.
I mean,
Where,
So
what sites
the
are you
funny
going
thing
to?
is, if you read about AR at all, or VR at all, it's always like, well, porn will probably be the thing that figures out.
Absolutely, yeah.
It's like, I don't know, I've never used VR. Like maybe they will.
Every morning, John wakes up and clicks on his bookmark for vrsexporn.com.
VR sex robot porn. Yeah,
so I'm going to get into spoiler Terry a little bit here. So if you're listening, it will be a tiny bit spoiler.
Did you just say spoiler Terry?
Who's Terry?
Oh, I don't know. I've had a lot of wine. I'm sorry. At any rate, I'm going to spoil shit.
I'm going to get into Terry right now.
So about the time what solidified the path of this movie in my mind, talking on the I route that John was on, is when our main girl in the movie starts investigating baby girl, the number one girl on the cam service that they're on, and she starts looking into her in real life and getting some hints, and she's kind of feeling out information, and then she starts to realize, watching her own channel, watching some of the other channels, watching baby girl's channel, that they're starting to reuse some of the same phrases and things like that, which is just, maybe I'm an IT nerd, but that's very typical of computer software and programming and things like that. So I thought that was an interesting take, which really impressed me writing wise.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, no, totally. They definitely, it was very realistic. And I mean, again, like not to like over harp on the comparison, but like it reminded me a lot of Black Mirror in that it felt very authentic, and it felt like a very real portrayal of how technology in sort of like near sci-fi sense could go from where we are today and do something that's like definitely outside the reach of what like current tech could deliver, but not so far that it feels weird. And it does it in a way that, Casey, to your point, like there's some like pretty interesting little sort of like red flags that get thrown up. And then eventually, she starts through her investigation, like starts to really uncover some stuff where it's like, oh, okay. But it was, I mean, again, like you talk about this, a script that can cover all of this kind of like deep cam girl sort of like lifestyle stuff and really make that feel authentic, but then also go to this sort of like AI deep fakes, like
Well, I think that I think the writer, having been a cam girl, really gives you insight to how much you have to know. Like, yeah, it's great if you have a cam and you can just immediately start to be a cam girl. Like, you obviously don't need a whole lot, but like to start being a cam girl. But like, it's also really impressive how much she knows, like the ins and outs of technology in general, and how all of that works outside of just her platform. And our friend Valeska was telling me that the director in agreement to direct the movie, he had to cam for 5 days himself to kind
That's
of
awesome.
understand the working. So like that's a really interesting. It's a really interesting approach to the movie in general, and how they tried to make it as
God-
authentic as possible.
God bless him. I would have
Why?
been like, nah, you can get somebody else to direct this movie.
I think, is
think
there a
that's pretty-
market for like men on
Yeah,
cam?
Actually,
sure
I'm
there
gonna
is.
actually
Joe,
I'm gonna
pretty
direct
sure.
actually I'm
Why
gonna
not?
direct this NCIS
I don't
episode
know.
instead.
Look at us.
Joe, just punch in gay cam.
So I
sites and
guess.
see
Well,
what
I
comes
guess
up.
maybe like straight. Like, is there like, I don't know. I just can't imagine anyone paying to see my face.
I bet you there's
I think there'd be gay men lining
yeah,
up
Joe,
around
I
the
bet you
corner,
there's some
Joe.
dudes that would.
I'm
You
gonna
guys
have a
think
live stream
so?
of me farting and eating queso.
Go on, guys. Seriously,
But,
how many do you think I could get?
There's a
Gotta
really
lose
good.
a hat, Joe.
Jesus Christ.
It depends.
There's
Are
a
you or
really
are you
good
not
interview.
flushing cereal on stream?
Jesus. There's a really good interview with both the writer and the director on Anatomy of a Scream about how, the steps they took to really bring that authenticity to the screen, and how it itself is a character in the
I mean,
movie.
it really shows that they went
Yeah,
that extra
That's
mile.
great.
With
No,
that
I
stuff.
mean, I think that's kind of my problem. Like, I thought it worked so well that I didn't want to see like sort of the sci-fi aspect.
Yeah.
of it. I just want to see.
Joe is working up to telling us he wants to just watch cams.
I mean,
I spend the rest of the weekend just watching them. And
But you just want to watch Cam and then ask the girls, like, okay, so what's happening in your real life? Like, are these people
Yeah.
creepy? Like, what's happening? Like,
Yeah.
do
I
you
think
flush
that's a
your
pre-
cereal down the toilet? Like, what's, how many
Be your
tokens is it going to cost for me to get you to do that?
and tape it while it's happening.
I think the fact that he had to agree to cam for 5 days is really interesting, though, because if you look at this in today's modern Hollywood, what all the news stories and stuff are about, for what the subject matter of this movie is and the story, it's presented really, really well.
Oh, for sure. I mean, I think that, and it's interesting because it's done so well that you don't realize that they're like, it's not done with like kitty gloves, like you
Yeah.
can tell that like it's an authentic, people know what they're talking about. It's not like, okay, well, I'm trying to, show you this, but I'm not going to show you all of it because I'm not really sure how to handle it. Like, they leaned into it and were great at it. So I think
Yeah.
that that it makes it that much more better.
And a pivotal scene that John was talking about earlier, when our main character decided she was going to do a certain type of show that she would never have done before because she was desperate and wanted the placement. It's a very forward scene that they're showing. She's completely topless. There's a lot of O faces going on, stuff like that. And never
Ugh.
once do you stop to think that it's sexy, because the entire
Right, yeah.
time you were focused in on how desperate she is and how
To be
upset she is.
fair, Casey, you don't know what
Joe,
I'm
Joe, I know.
Oh my God.
You don't have to
But
tell
no,
all your
I agree.
feelings.
Like, it's really, and you had mentioned it before, like the time, and even the times that she, like that she shows any nudity, or that there's really any like kind of sexy moments. That's not the emphasis of, like, the lens is not through the male gaze at all. Like, it's very like, this
It's all
is,
further in the plot.
yeah, exactly. So I loved it. I thought that it was superbly handled.
Yeah, but I think with all the debate that's going on, this is a good movie that we're going to be able to point back to later on and say this is a good way to do it when people start bringing up this debate, because especially coming from a male director, that they were able to handle it that well.
Yeah, you definitely don't see. Well, I kind of mentioned, I think, over email. I was surprised this is a Blumhouse film, because like Blumhouse.
Thank you.
They don't. The Blumhouse brand has not really been attached to a ton of other films that have as much sort of like sexuality and certainly nudity in them.
Mhm.
When you think about like certainly the big hits, and even some of the smaller stuff they've done. I guess we did get what's his name's in Creep. You get some male full frontal. But
It's true.
That's about as unsexy as it gets. So, but yeah, this was a film that's really, in some ways, as much as it's about sex work and like sort of like labor and the displacement of labor in a very technical sense, it's about sexuality too.
For
And
sure, yeah.
It's always
think
about sexuality with you, John.
Well, no, but I think even the men, and we haven't like talked that much about them. There's like, there's like one male character, Tink. I can't remember if he's ever even given like a real name,
Tinker.
but like, yeah,
Boy.
Tinker. Like they're him.
I have not. There are a few people that have physically repulsed me in a movie more than that guy.
Well, like he's also pathetic, right? Like he's. It's not like you're watching him and you're
not
repulsed.
physically repulsed at all. Like he's a very
No, I
normal looking
was.
dude.
No.
He's very like middle of the road. Yeah.
He's
All
not
right.
threatening. To John's point, he's not threatening. He's not like
He's
a
not
scary killer,
threatening.
but he is like greasy and
very
sniveling
greasy.
I mean,
and
is
sweaty.
he unsettling? Sure, but like, I just mean, if I had to pick between him and like somebody else to stand next to, like, there's creepier people, like
Yeah.
physicality wise.
Yeah, he's not frightening. He's just disgusting. He's gross.
As a fat man, sometimes you get sweaty.
Like, and I said this over email. Sometimes I watch movies and I see an actor and I'm like, there is no way that that guy's acting. Like, that's just what that guy is like. And I guess that's a testament to his performance. That's
I
given,
hope they just like spritzed him with like a spray bottle.
or just like
Yeah.
a spray
No,
bottle
I read
filled.
that he had to stop showering for 5 days. If I'm in a cam, you're gonna stop showering.
Oof, that guy, so gross.
All right,
Cam.
That's a good natural stop.
Terry and Lynn.
What would you recommend this, Cece?
Yes,
Joe?
definitely.
Yeah, I'd say it's worth a watch.
John,
Yes.
Casey?
Absolutely.
I'm also gonna say yes. Joe, I think we need to revisit my top 10 here on the other side of this break, or we could just do it now because you know what keeps
Yeah.
happening is I
Well, no,
forget in the bumper.
Why don't I do want to mention that one scene at the birthday party where everyone finds out that she's a cam girl and then the mother still insists on singing happy birthday was
Well, she was just trying to, get the party to move along.
was
Yeah.
probably my favorite moment of the entire thing.
Well, wouldn't you make that kid leave? Like, that's a shitty friend of your
Yeah.
son's. Like, I'd be
Yeah.
like, you need to leave, and then we'll sing happy birthday.
I
Yeah.
don't know. Maybe.
I definitely would. If I was her brother, I definitely would have kicked the kid's ass too.
Yeah.
Well, but there's
Uh,
kind of this whole thread where, and then we can wrap it up. It's just like the family is definitely pegged as like kind of lower class, just like money wise. And I think like you see that in the brother's friends, like but there's something to that and her aspiration, right? Like she clearly is aspiring to live a different lifestyle than her family. So it's really
Yeah.
it's really stark when she goes back to her mom's house because it's so different from like the life that she's living.
Well, even talking about the mom though, that's a whole nother angle we haven't talked about. How open she is with everybody she knows, except for her mom, about what she does for a living, until it comes out with the party, and then they have the point later where mom comes back. It's like, well, I decided to go watch, and you're actually pretty good at it. Which was, I think, a fairly big moment as far as not necessarily the plot, but its character development.
Yeah, I mean, I think having the mom be accepting of it was a huge point, especially with how the movie ends. Like, I think that like we talked about, it's a movie that really supports just sexuality and sex work and just individuality in general.
It's very heartwarming.
Yes.
Joe,
So cute.
top 10 me.
All right. So last week we had Overlord too. So I don't know if you want to.
That's
slot
I
that
think
in there.
yeah. Give me my top 10. Let's do
So
this.
right now your top 10 is Annihilation, Terrifier, Hereditary, Halloween, Unsane, They Remain, The First Purge, Strangers, Prey at Night, A Quiet Place, and The Predator.
Fuck. Okay, Predator can go. I like the Predator,
Alright.
but that can go. Fucking A, man. And just save these because I don't know. I think that what was number 7?
Number 7 is
I think
The First
that
Purge.
I think bump The First Purge and put Overlord there, and then put Cam at 10.
Oh, take The First Purge out altogether?
Yeah.
Oh. You sure not Strangers, Prey at Night? Because that
No,
movie
I
wasn't
really like that movie.
good.
Joe,
Alright.
Joe, you know me. Like the more you fight me on it, the more I'm gonna double down on it.
All right, so we're putting Overlord at 7 and Cam at 10,
Yeah, Overlord is pretty good.
and Strangers Prey at Night is gone. Okay.
Fuck you, Joe. I will change it back. Thank you, Joe. All right, guys, that's gonna do it for Cam. Let's take a quick break and do some fan mail.
The coming for me.
The creators of Tales from the Crypt have unearthed a story so terrifying it can only be seen on the big screen. Bordello of Blood.
Go for it.
Rated R. Starts Friday, August 16th at theaters everywhere.
Hi, this is Billy Bryan, the Stay Puft Marshmallow Man, and you're listening to Bloody Good Horror.
Send your emails to info@bloodygoodhorror.com or hit us up on Twitter at BGHorror with the hashtag AskBGH. And don't forget to pick up back episodes of the show at podcast.bloodygoodhorror.com.
And we are back. Joe, is this the second year that we've done the whole like top 10 as we go thing?
Yeah.
I feel like it's much harder this year. Like I'm with John. I have like 15 legit movies that I feel like I could put in the top 10 this year.
I think we've talked about that. Like, I have a list of movies, but I have no real like inkling as to like where they fall in a top 10.
Yeah.
It's a real nail biter.
No email this week. info@bloodygoodhorror.com is email address, though, if you want to send us some. John, what do we got on Twitter?
Yeah, just a couple tweets, actually. So only one BGH Classic, but it's a doozy. This one comes to us from Monica, official historian at Bloody Good Horror. Episode 137, My Soul to Take. If you and Eric watched Videodrome together, it would probably end in violent sex. And that is Mark to the Joe character.
Oh.
So,
okay.
I don't
Why
know.
would that be a thing?
Here we are, though.
Do you like that movie? Videodrome?
No, I don't.
You don't,
actually.
right?
I'm
No,
not a
neither do I.
Yeah, I'm not a big fan.
Well, maybe
Just
that's why you're.
We're like, oh, I don't want to watch this. We just fuck. Fine, I guess.
Get the cam out.
Jesus.
Is that a vibrating saddle in the corner?
Oh, Christ. Yeah, I like that one. It's pretty good. All right, so we got a couple of SBGH here. That's hashtag AskBGH. The first one comes to us from Library of Congress, Thor's Hour of Thunder podcast. With Thanksgiving coming up, what is your favorite type of pie? I'm a simple guy, and I like pie, and I wanted you all to talk about it. Also, the new Harper's Island Beholden Electric Terrors episode was amazing. I love how mad the harpoon deaths made at Wine Movie Nerd.
Okay.
So,
nice.
Pie. Who likes it and who has a favorite?
I'm a
I
peanut
don't like
butter
pie.
pie.
I feel like we talked. Oh, peanut butter pies. Who said that?
Peanut butter pie.
I
That-
did.
Peanut butter pie is like not to me a like classic pie. Like
Who
it's
cares?
an excellent answer.
What do you
but
be?
they're
Are you
wrong.
are you a pie elitist, John? Jesus.
No. I just mean I've had a peanut butter pie. It is delicious. But if someone asks like, "What's your favorite pie?"
It's pumpkin.
I don't know. It's like
End of
you go,
discussion.
like
No, I
apple,
want
like-
peanut butter pie. That's my favorite.
Yeah. No, I get what you're saying, John. Like, it's not a traditional pie. Like, I'm more in the pumpkin
Okay.
apple. You know,
Yeah.
your.
All right. I mean, it
Yeah.
can still be.
Carrots.
It can still be Casey's favorite.
No,
No.
totally. It's a fair answer. I'm sorry. All right, I'll
I'm
leave
not
it.
saying it's not his favorite. I'm just saying it's wrong and it's stupid.
I do like an Amish sugar cream pie though too.
Oh, Jesus
Now you're
Christ.
just making pies up.
I was gonna
Yeah.
say, what the fuck is that?
It's just diabetes.
Yeah, it's just diabetes, but it's fucking good.
I'm pumpkin all the way.
Yeah,
I
me
love
too.
pumpkin. I think we've talked about the show. Like I love a pumpkin pie, but I only want it Thanksgiving between like.
yeah, no, we had this
week
we
and,
had this
like,
discussion because Joe and I are pro pumpkin pie all year.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that's ludicrous. Where do y'all stand on mincemeat pie?
I don't think
know
I've
that
ever
I've
had
had
that.
it.
That sounds like some fancy Schnars boy stuff there.
No,
Oh,
mincemeat pie
I've
is
had it.
a-
So
Not a
it's
fan.
savory or no? Mincemeat's a
No,
thing
no,
that
it's-
sounds savory, but it's not. It's like dried fruit.
Yes, it's delicious. Okay, pies.
I-
CC,
yeah.
do you want to weigh in on pie? Or no?
I'll
yeah,
get
I
to-
don't like pie.
Oh, all right.
I'll
What
get
about pot
down-
pies?
I mean, I'll eat a
Except
pot
for-
pie, but no. Kyle likes sweet potato pies though, so
Oh, I've
I
never
guess
had
that's
that.
my,
That sounds like
that's my
some.
vote.
That sounds like
So
some.
Speaking of Joe,
Southern
speaking
stuff.
of pot pies, Colleen got me breakfast pot pies this week. They had sausage and gravy. It's amazing.
Wow.
Oh my God, what? I've never heard of that.
I know.
Cece,
That's-
is sweet potato pie must be a Southern thing? I've never heard of that.
You've never heard of sweet potato pie? I mean,
No.
it is a southern thing, but yeah, I mean,
Sounds delicious.
smash
get-
it up
I'll-
and add some cinnamon and nutmeg and a whole bunch of other crap in it.
You know, I'll get
That's
down
just
with a
sweet
with.
potatoes.
I'll get down with
Yeah.
a lemon meringue pie too. Pretty into that.
Yes,
Yeah, I'm down.
strong agree. I mean, look,
Key-
key lime pie is
Key
also
lime,
amazing.
yeah.
So,
No votes for a classic pecan pie?
Oh yeah, pecan. Oh, I love pecan as well. I mean, for me, a key lime pie is a summer pie. So
I
So,
feel like
uh,
you eat enough pie and you're full, whereas I feel like it takes way more cake to be satisfied. Like you have one piece of cake and you're never like, well, that was great. I'm not going to eat any more of that. Because it's just like air.
Hey,
well, yeah, and sugar.
A pie's
I
like
feel
a
like
meal.
you're really limiting yourself with your pie seasons, John.
Yeah.
It could
Oh.
be summer in the middle of winter if you have a key lime pie in your living room.
Little key lime pie, a little glass of tequila alongside.
Little
Hey,
cereal
it
on
might,
the
cure, it
toilet.
might cure those winter doldrums.
That's right. Put on a little Jimmy B.
I will
No.
Blow out a
Rather-
flip flop.
stab.
Blow out a flip flop.
All right. Next one comes to us from Bruno, at Bruno the Weber. He says, I don't know. Who are your favorite cam girls, I guess?
I don't have a favorite.
I read that as it was written, just to be
I
clear.
gonna have to-
can't answer my wife.
I'll have
as
to
well.
research.
Yeah, I have no idea.
Yeah, I
Yeah,
did.
I don't know.
There's that funny scene
Although-
where like the
although
one,
Valeska also told me that one of the actresses liked camming so much that she started to cam after this movie.
Wow. Which one?
They don't know. The director
what
didn't
website?
say.
No.
Yeah, the director didn't say which one.
Well, Eric's got his Thanksgiving holiday planned.
No, listen. The only cam girl that I'm interested in on Thanksgiving is Joe Bob Briggs.
Exactly.
Oh my God, we didn't even talk about that. I'm very excited.
Yeah, he's coming back. He's doing Dinners of Death, Thanksgiving night. 4 movies, starts at 9, and he says that
Yeah.
one of them is going to be his favorite movie of all time, which with a dinner has to be TCM, right?
Yeah, maybe. I don't know.
I'm excited about Joe Bob coming back for Thanksgiving since we're changing the subject, but I won't get to watch it. But at the same time, I don't know that it's the best choice considering they're going up against the new season of MST3K.
No, I mean, I'll be honest. I think the Thanksgiving night thing kind of sucks, but they are apparently he's coming back in March and starting weekly double features, according to the article I read last week. So
That's awesome.
yeah, pretty psyched.
Eric, do you want to give a shout out for any streamers, video game streamers in the cam universe?
Yeah, well,
Catastrophic.
yeah, I was gonna say catastrophic. So, she's a listener and a patron, and she works at Humble Bundle.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, she just did a big 48 hour stream for what was the charity, Eric?
Extra Life. They donate.
Yes.
They donate to like children's hospitals, like Miracle Network kind of thing. But yeah, so if you follow the Humble Twitch, she's on there. I don't, I'd have to look. I don't really know them by names, but I follow some artists. I follow like some Warframe streamers. I follow some like retro streamers. It is really interesting because I follow some streamers who there's definitely a contingent who's like really trying to do it and stay relevant, and those people are constantly switching games. So like whatever game comes out, that's what they're streaming, and they just but then you have people who they're like, I just play Warframe, and they just play Warframe like 14 hours a day, and they're just there every day. It's a
I've been trying to
fascinating.
get people to watch me play Minesweep, but like,
Oh my God, Joe! I will,
Nobody.
Joe. I
Candy
will
Crush?
set Joe. I will set you up to stream Minesweeper.
She was like 10 by 10. God damn it.
Eric, this will be a good one for you. Joe, possibly just by like splash damage, but Dan Giesling from Big Brother fame is a big Twitch streamer.
Yeah, I followed him and
Yeah.
I wasn't crazy about it, but yeah, he is
Yeah.
on there. He just plays a lot of CS:GO.
Hmm.
It's interesting. Like I'm a person who always has to have something on in the background when I'm working because my ADD is like way too strong to just be doing one thing. So it's great like background noise, and I love like Fallout 76 is out right now. I have no time in my life for like a multiplayer game like that, but I'm really curious. So then I can just go on and just like watch people play and get a feel for it. So it's fun.
Next one comes to us from Cody. at StowballCody42. Thoughts on Critters and Killer Clowns revival by Sci-Fi Channel. Also,
Oh.
correct myself last week with Dream Door. It's a 4th season of Channel Zero. Super awesome, though. Pretzel Jack for the win.
Cool. So Sci-Fi Channel is going to destroy both of those things. I mean, seriously.
Yeah. Like, it's funny. I think it was Andrew on Slack. Andrew, who writes for the site, was like losing it about Critters, and like if they do anything to Critters, like I'm gonna be so pissed. And I was like, neither of those are canonical for me. Like I'm not.
Yeah.
You know,
It's
I
fun.
don't care too
It's
much
not
about
that great of a
Critters.
movie.
Yeah. I don't care too much about Critters. I'd be curious to see what they do with Killer Clowns, though, because the Chiodo brothers seem like they'd be down for about anything and still make it kind of crazy on the makeup front. So that's my hope.
All right.
There you go. Skizbot, Skylar, good question here. Aside from planes, trains, and automobiles, do you have any go-to Thanksgiving weekend movie picks?
Ooh.
I like to get my Dutch on.
Bro,
Oh, Dutch is great.
Home Alone.
I haven't seen Dutch in forever.
Dutch is great.
Scrooged.
Home-
We usually bust out around this
I
time
mean,
of
you guys are just talking about Christmas movies now, which is appropriate.
Well, but don't they always play Home Alone during Thanksgiving? Isn't that a thing on one of the channels? It's like a TBS thing or
I'm
something.
pretty sure it can be found at all times between Thanksgiving and
Really?
New
Yeah.
Year's Day.
Yo,
So
fuck that kid. I understand why they left him.
I don't know. Thanksgiving,
Good
Thanksgiving,
movie.
Thanksgiving for me is more about football, and then by the time the night comes around, like I'm so much in a coma, like I'm not really paying attention to anything happening on the TV.
Yeah, I'm definitely gonna try to dig into some kids movies. You know, with the kiddos. I can't.
Alright.
I don't think I told you guys. I tried to show James after one of our previous conversations. Tried to show him Paranorman, and it did not go great.
Oh, no.
He was terrified.
Oh,
And
funny.
Really?
Well, having like I hadn't seen it in probably like 2 years. It's for a 4-year-old. It's pretty scary. Like
That's true. I mean, it's a little on the heavy side.
We
I can see
watched.
that.
like the zombies are just like they're just like kind of scary. Like because he doesn't know that they're like kind of
Yeah.
ridiculous because they're you know colonial era clothes and stuff. He
Right.
just like and they're like breaking through the door and they're like coming after the kid. You know what I mean? So.
But at the
it-
end, like, don't the witches or something like, or like, aren't they burning at the end? Or
Yeah, we didn't get that far. We
well, I mean,
got-
I know, but like, I'm just thinking back about the movie in general.
We,
now.
My
You had
got,
to
like,
take the
40
chicken
minutes
eggs in.
my daughter and I watched Hotel Transylvania last week.
Mhm.
It's
He
okay.
loved Hotel- he
Yeah,
loved
yeah. I was kind of. So she's like 2.5. I wasn't sure if she'd be scared because like for a little kid who's not really following a lot of it, like the Dracula does that thing where he does his scary face, but it actually like to a kid might be scary because he gets up in the camera and he's like, oh, but she was
Yeah.
just like, it's Dracula, and I was like, yeah, it is. Yeah.
Mhm.
But the thing I wasn't prepared for that movie, and I think might stop me from watching the other ones, is I am just not on board with Adam Sandler and his whole like I give my friends jobs thing. And so like literally you're listening to that movie and it's like, oh, there's Rob Schneider, there's David Spade, there's this guy, there's fucking Kevin James, and it's like
Why not though? Like, who cares?
because I just don't fucking I
Yeah.
don't want to see anything with them even if it's just their voices.
What?
Nah,
Yeah,
Grown
I
Ups
don't
was great.
All right.
I've reached an age where I've
Did you
come
just say
back to
Grown Ups
accepting
was
Adam Sandler.
great?
Yeah, I love that movie.
Yeah,
Okay.
like I'm not gonna go to bat for grown-ups.
Cool,
but I'll
dude.
go to
No,
bat for
absolutely
somebody,
not.
Cool
other
story, bro.
movies.
Is Adam, not to get off on a tangent, but Adam Sandler's new special on Netflix is
It is.
amazing. Like, it's
Yeah.
so well done.
It's more songs than stand up, so it's
Yeah.
pretty great.
I was pretty down with Steve Buscemi as the werewolf with too many kids.
God,
That was pretty fun.
Hey John, completely aside, speaking of you and James though, since right before Halloween when you explained to me what PJ masks were,
Mhm.
I see them everywhere now.
Yeah, it's pretty popular. So, it's yeah, they're out there. The PJ Masks, Greg, Amaya, and Connor. So, last one here, Bohemian Groverino at Real Joe Scar. This is a good question. So everyone, I need everyone to put your thinking caps on. If you were surrounded by a rafter of rabid, frothy turkeys and you are armed with an aluminum baseball bat, would you swing for their heads like a game of t-ball or for their plump little bodies?
Heads. The bodies are
Oh,
gonna just
heads.
absorb that blow.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like,
yeah,
See,
dude.
It
I'm
might
gonna
be
go-
it
I'm
might
gonna
be
split the
a
difference
higher
and go
percentage.
necks.
Maybe, but I don't know. I think you got.
I think the head's going to cause enough neck trauma. That
It's
gonna
a
carry-
lower it's a lower percentage shot, but I feel like if you connect, your percentage of putting them down is gonna be a lot higher.
Oh yeah,
Yeah.
a turkey is like pretty big. Too.
Also,
like,
bro, turkeys will fuck you up. Like,
yeah,
you have no shot.
I totally agree. No, that's what I'm saying. If you went for the bodies, like you're not doing enough damage. Like you're not gonna take
No.
that bad boy down.
No. And you're gonna like take one out before like the other ones are coming at you.
My favorite actually, this is what I watch on Thanksgiving, John. There's this video from like 8 or 12, well, at this point, 12 years ago, maybe 10 years ago, of Sarah Palin during the run up to the election, and she did some event at a turkey farm for some reason around Thanksgiving, or like whatever. I guess it
They
was
always do.
Florida.
Yeah.
And unbeknownst to her, there was a guy slaughtering a turkey behind her in the background, and he's literally got it upside down, and he's jamming it down into this like shredder, and there's just blood squirting out of the whole thing in the background behind her.
I am looking this up as we speak.
Just like just do like Sarah Palin turkey slaughter, it'll show up.
You don't have to wait.
No, I don't know. Go ahead.
Oh Christ. Yeah, good times.
Carry on, John.
No, that's all we got. That was the last one.
Oh damn. All right,
Yes,
we'll play the
yes,
outro music, and I'll wait for Joe to get to the money shot.
Oh yeah, I'm there already. This is amazing. He's like draining the blood like into a bucket or something while she's talking. Dear God.
Perfect metaphor. All right,
I
guys.
can see Russia from my
Bunch of things going on. Episode 5, no live show next week because episode 500 hopefully is coming your way. Spooktacular next Friday, the 30th, John?
Yep.
Yeah.
BGH is now on Spotify. Please follow us, and even if you're not going to listen, give us a follow. That would be a huge help. Please leave us iTunes reviews. Anything else, John? You have a pregnant look on your face.
We're coming back with The Witch in the Window is our plan for the
Nice.
week after Thanksgiving.
There you
We
go.
at.
And if you're interested in that Bloody Good Horror 10-year shirt, check us out on TeePublic. You can search Bloody Good Horror on there. Do we have a URL, John?
tpublic.com/bloodygoodhorror. You can also just go to bloodygoodhorror.com and there's a shop little button there. Bang it on the
I
bang it
can
on the
con-
shop button.
right now, if you type that in, it takes you to a page that just has that shirt.
All right.
So there you go.
Could be
I don't know
worse.
why it's not showing our other ones, but that's the one we were interested in telling you about. So, oh, you can get a tank top.
You can get a coffee mug. You can get anything you want.
Sexy. Love it. All right, guys. Everybody, I hope you have a happy Thanksgiving, people.
Yeah.
Yeah. Stay away from the rabid turkeys unless you have an aluminum baseball bat. I
Don't.
guess.
Yeah, no flushing of turkey.
And also wash your hands after turkeys because there's a salmonella outbreak right
Oh.
now.
Thanks, Cece. Great. This
I
is
mean, I'm being real.
Isn't
Public
there
service.
always something
Okay.
like what you're touching?
I gotta ask this question. You're gonna wash your hands after touching the turkey. Do you wash your hands after flushing your cereal down the toilet?
Nah. There's if like duty
That
wants
was the water jump. I feel like this is a Juice Bigelow conversation.
Oh God.
Love it. All right, guys. It's going to do it for episode 499. Hope you enjoyed the show. We'll talk to you soon.
See yous.
Yeah.
I am not an animal.
Bye bye.